Coaches, the program you write for a client needs to meet their needs, not the needs of the methodology that you think is going to work for everybody. I'm Dr. Felicia Pasadyn, owner and founder at Active Life. I set up tables and chairs all over New York, letting strangers ask me questions about health and fitness because, well, I know stuff. And when you set up in Manhattan, you never know who you're going to bump into. On one particular day, a woman named Felicia Pasadyn came over to me to ask me questions about fitness. Now, what's the big deal about Felicia Pasadyn? Well, it turns out that she's in her final semester of residency to be a radiologist, and she qualified for the United States Olympic trials in the marathon the weekend before she came to talk to me. Think about this for a second. The marathon, which is something that people run 100 to 120 miles a week to prepare for. She finished at a time of 2 hours and 35 minutes in New York, which, by the way, has a bunch of this going on. It's not an easy race. 2 hours and 35 minutes, about 6 years ahead of her prime years as a distance runner. And she did all of that, training in between classes and residency rounds. That is mind-blowing. There's no way that she could or would even want to try traditional marathon training protocols to get her to where she's trying to go, which was Olympic trial qualifying. Now, how did she do it? In the conversation that you're about to watch me have with her, you're gonna hear her break down what her running is like, why she does it the way that she does it, what her residency is like, any fears she has around radiology being a career that gets eliminated by AI, which is relevant to you, by the way, because coaching is no different than being a doctor except for the subject matter that we're talking to people about. And she has things about her career that make her feel AI immune that you should be taking into consideration about your career too. And then in the end, I want you to be considering how traditional methods go out the window when somebody breaks through who isn't using them. Remember, if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, help us grow so we can reach more coaches like you to build their careers in a fulfilling way. Let's get to it.
I go to medical school at NYU Grossman School
Awesome.
of Medicine. I'm going into radiology, which is kind of like the diagnosis, before the actual management component. But I just finished running the marathon on Sunday.
Okay.
And I was just curious about this because I'm like very, very, very into fitness.
Okay.
But mostly from like a running perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. So my goal was to make the US Olympic trials in the marathon, and I just did that.
You made
2:35.
the Olympic? Nice job.
Thank you.
2:35.
Yeah, for women it's not half bad, I'll tell you that.
That's blazing. That's blazing fast. How did you manage to get in the kind of shape that allows you to run a 2:35 marathon and go to medical school?
Yeah, a lot of 4 a.m. workouts, a lot of 2-hour Stairmaster sessions, a ton of strength training. And I actually only run 4 days a week, but I make my runs extremely high yield.
How do you do that?
Like zone 3 or higher heart rate. Like not a lot of my workouts are in zone 2.
And how far are you going on those runs?
Between 8 and 15, but it's for an injury prevention purposes. Like a lot of my running friends ask me, why I'm running 5 or 6 or 7 days a week, but I just don't want to get injured,
Well, because their belief set is that they have to be running 5, 6, 7 days a week.
Right, exactly.
So
and cross training and strength training are honestly two key components to something like maybe, for instance, your clients might really could use a lot.
Believe it or not, education is the biggest component that helps them. Mm-hmm. And then using the education to allow them to do things in their training sessions that they otherwise wouldn't do because they're afraid, that's what starts to break down the pain.
I see.
Right? It's I hurt myself reaching down to pick up a water bottle when I was 25 years old. Mm-hmm. My doctor told me never to lift something more than 10 pounds again. So every time I reach down, it hurts a little bit, but we help those people overcome that fear.
Okay.
Like teaching them what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And then putting them in the environment that they're afraid of and showing them that they can survive it.
It concerns me that it feels like the patient population you work with has potentially been wronged by like Western medicine.
It has.
I'm sure people come to you and say like my MD told me like this bogus thing.
All the time.
That didn't make sense to me. Which is sad, and it's sad that there's that relationship sometimes between athletes looking for like treatments and MDs.
Well, here's the thing. I think at least, most MDs, orthopedists, anybody, they have all of the best intentions.
Uh-huh.
They're setting themselves up to try and help the patient not get hurt again.
Yeah.
The patient doesn't always know how to ask the right question. And when the doctor, I've spoken to hundreds of doctors, when they make a different recommendation, they get backlash because the patient doesn't want to be told what's their responsibility, what they can do.
Yeah.
And it becomes a habit to just, and especially in the insurance model.
Right.
What's interesting for you, being in radiology,
Yeah.
is how quickly people cast spells on themselves as a result of what their radiological findings are. I have a herniated disc. Okay, right? That they think that means something. And so, how long? When do you graduate?
I get my MD in May of 2026,
Okay.
so not that
Soon.
many more months.
That's
Yeah,
soon.
yeah.
So, what I think, like, are you going to have patient interactions, or are you going to be reviewing and sending it back?
So realistically, I want to end up going into breast radiology, which is very patient-facing. You're doing the biopsies and aspirations and stereotactic biopsies like right there, and then working with the patient.
So less orthopedic.
in real time. Yeah, less orthopedic.
I would urge you to tell your orthopedic friends who are in orthopedic radiology to get really good at communicating the findings of the imaging with the patient, so that the patient can understand this might be correlative but not causative. And so it doesn't mean that I have to live my life in a limited way as a result of this herniated disc or this arthritis. It's not it's not a curse.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you make a great point. I think the beauty of radiology is it's quite black and white. So, for example, you might have a patient who's been having chronic, or not chronic, but acute foot pain really badly for 2 weeks. And the minute you see a fracture, you can say, your radiologist can say, like, this is what was causing your pain.
Yeah.
And that was my inspiration. And I did high school cross country and had a stress fracture. And my athletic trainer told me, oh, just take 2 days off and you'll bounce back. And I had a stress fracture. And he was trying to do the Graston technique on the bottom of my foot on a fracture. So basically, I love it now on the other side, which is like, this is real. This is what patients really want to hear. It's like, what is going on?
Like a fifth metatarsal fracture?
Fourth metatarsal.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And okay, so yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah,
very painful.
How long did it take to heal?
8 weeks in a boot, and then like low impact and physical therapy for a few months, and then I was back in track season. I was ready for track.
That's good.
Yeah.
When are your Olympic trials?
2028 February.
Okay. You qualified already?
Yes. So it opened September 1st of 2025. And I thought I could do this in maybe late 2026 or early 2027 is when I was thinking of going to sub 237.
Right.
But it was just an amazing race on Sunday.
So how do you reset your brain now to, okay, I made the trials.
Yeah.
What's the goal left? Is there a goal left or the goal? Is it make the team?
I want to go pro next year.
Okay.
So the Olympic team, to be straight up, 120 women every 4 years make trials in the United States, which is already a select group. That's why it's such an honor.
Small.
Yeah, it's quite small. But only the top three from there make the Olympics.
Right.
So I think.
What kind of time do you need to do that?
Low 220s.
Okay.
I need to drop like 10 more, potentially upwards of more than 10 minutes.
Right, that's a
But
lot.
I'm also young. I'm only 23, and they say marathon fitness peaks around like 28 to 34.
Right.
That's what the research shows. So I'm hoping I'm just getting started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
But no,
awesome.
I'm trying to sign with a company next year that will salary
Does
me.
the company that you would sign with matter to you? Like, are there companies out there that you would want to sign with more than others?
Yes, because right now I'm contracted for gear only with Saucony, for example.
Okay.
And I've grown such an affiliation with Saucony and truly believe in all of their products that I'd like to go pro with them next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how would that not get in the way of you being a doctor?
Oh no, it definitively does. I mean, I show up sometimes on the medicine wards helping the patients, and I'm kind of tired or sore or limping out of the room. But also, I can't give up my two dreams. You
What
know.
about the travel though? How would you be in a clinic and travel to the races?
Well, eventually, some of radiology can be done virtually. So that's like far in my career. But as for residency, you're right, it's very limiting. So I'd probably just have to be like a 1 or 2 marathon a year type person rather than a monthly races like what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think AI disrupts radiology?
AI is currently only being used to make the radiologist more efficient and better. So for example, like a very urgent pediatric radiology finding, AI might understand that that's urgent and put it up highest on the queue so that that patient's family can figure that news out sooner rather than say someone with appendicitis, which is emergent but not quite as deadly, would maybe be read later. But I will say something like breast radiology is very protected from AI because until we find robots that can do aspirations and biopsies, it's still very hands-on.
So the radiologist in that case actually does the
physically
work.
doing it, yes.
Okay.
Or like some, as you were mentioning, MSK radiologists, like the musculoskeletal, do their own joint aspirations.
Okay.
So those folks are very protected.
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because I imagine if you're someone who's reading an MRI, I just imagine that's gone soon.
Not gone.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, like right now, I'm doing some pancreatic cancer research. Like, and AI isn't quite so fantastic at distinguishing between diseases that have similar features. So sometimes pancreatitis looks like pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma, which is a serious cancer, versus pancreatitis. People live with pancreatitis all the time because of the wall thickening. And sometimes it makes a red flag and a big deal of it and can make the patient very, very nervous in their chart if it says that there's a red flag finding, you know?
Yeah.
So currently AI is not there.
Okay.
It's not there. Yeah.
Radiology was one of the hardest subjects for me when I was in chiropractic school.
It's very, very challenging.
It is.
Yes.
Our teacher started no, that was micro. It doesn't matter. I was spending every day, every session in other people's radiology sessions because it was so hard to be able to differentiate.
Exactly. It's so detail oriented.
Yeah. People would ask me when I was in practice, why don't you do x-rays? Do you understand how hard it is
Yeah.
to actually be correct about what you're seeing on the x-ray?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to let that go to someone who really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So think about it, Coach. Now that you've heard that whole conversation, do you think if you told Felicia she's got to run 120 miles a week like other marathoners are to put up her best time, that she would say, I guess I'll put my residency on the side and do it? Or do you think she'd say, thanks, but I'm going to find a new coach? Or I'm going to do this myself? It would be the latter. That's what she would do. Now, marathon running is unique, but so is every single person who comes to you for coaching. Someone might come to you and say, I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to get stronger. I want to see my abs again. I want to be able to run 1 mile without stopping. And then you might throw at them a solution that you think is going to work, and they might tell you that they can't do it, or they don't want to do it, or they don't like it, or whatever it is. Drop your ego when that happens. It does not mean that you did a bad job. It means that what you traditionally do that works doesn't work for that person. It's your responsibility to figure out a way to blend what you know works with what you know they will do consistently. Because what works best is what they will do consistently, regardless of the program. I hope that you saw in this video that there's a lot of latitude between what tradition says and what reality says. And I want you to consider for 1 second, if Felicia, who's 6 years ahead of her prime, ends up becoming the best marathon runner in the United States in the next 6 to 10 years, which is totally reasonable, while she is practicing as a radiologist using these training methods, does the science look at her and say, was she right all along? Or does the science look at her and say, she's doing it wrong, imagine how much better she'd do if she was doing it right? That's for you to decide. I would want to be in the first camp. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, help us grow so we can help more coaches build fulfilling businesses like yours. I'm Dr. Sean Pastuch. This video is over.